Good morning. Welcome. This is Spoken Synergy. We're back. It's been a while, but I am so blessed to be here with such a good team of people. We are coming at you live on Wanjerabara soil. This is in the Yugambeh Nation, and we all pay respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Now I have the beautiful Ryan from Mountain Peak Media here doing all of the filming and all the camera work. Beautiful creativity from him. And I have my beautiful friend here, Joshua Tree, that's joining us today for a beautiful conversation. He is the creator and director of Music for Mindfulness, which we're going to hear all about. Welcome, Josh. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space to be in and to share some time together.
Yes. Thank you so much. We're going to get into all sorts of topics today, but I guess where I'd like to start is hearing a little bit about your journey, about how you got to this place for Music for Mindfulness and what sort of stirred you along the way and how you may have been guided towards that at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's the music.
Yes.
That was the gateway.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was having, I guess, what I'd call mystical experiences.
Nice.
Through music.
Yeah.
Particularly the first time I realised that I could put myself in a trance with the drum.
Beautiful.
And there was levels of, I guess, meditation that was incredible. So it took me on that journey that nothing else could do.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it. And in fact, I'd say, the last 20, 30 years of really, I guess, walking the path.
Mm-hmm.
Very interested in non-ordinary states of consciousness.
Excellent. You're speaking my language.
And exploring, I was always interested in, like, we've got our sleep state, our waking state, but what about all the in-between states?
Juicy.
And why are they repressed and ignored and not talked about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how old were you when you realised you could put yourself into a trance with the drum?
I would have been 19.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Pretty early, yeah.
Second year, visual arts, uni.
Okay. Yeah.
Had no interest or knowledge whatsoever, but I just found myself in an experience of going deep. And then wanting to replicate that and then realising, oh my gosh. And then from there, it's almost like the circle of life of drums. Some of my dearest brothers met through the drum, and sisters too.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's just this language that really speaks deep.
So you're a multi-instrument musician. Mm-hmm. You can play lots of different instruments.
Yeah.
And I've seen you in your shows and you've worked in healing sessions with me before. Can you sort of describe how you use those instruments and how they work together, maybe in a session or a show?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it kind of continues on from that first moment, I guess my first mystical experience.
Yeah.
As far as the drum goes and the teachings and the rhythms and the cycles and the patterns, that's that sense of rhythm. It goes through everything, through all life, through all things that are living.
100%.
So playing instruments, that adoption of rhythm into whether it's a guitar, a flute, the breath, rhythmical breath and so on, it just opens up that same possibility. And having that curiosity of a child essentially and creating in that, because I think music's also been one of those things that if someone's had a bad experience and told, you can't sing, you can't play, that sounds horrible, then that can stick with people for their whole lives and they'll never engage with music again.
True.
Which is a great travesty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for the music, for me, it's deeper states of meditation and mindfulness through the way. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the sense of the flow connecting into deeper spaces creates healing.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I see so much around these like full-on intense breathwork sessions and so on like that. Mm-hmm. And trauma doesn't heal trauma through trauma. Like, why create more traumatic experiences?
Yeah.
And it's just that sense that music can calm me so deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, actually.
And through that depth comes the healing.
Yeah, I really resonate with that, actually. I mean, I found that through plant medicines. I found it was highly traumatizing. It was really strong. I was purging. There was all these things around it. And after a while, I thought, I think this experience could be gentler.
Absolutely.
And I don't have to put something so strong into my body. But I think back then I really needed to see the power. But I'll share with everyone that's watching as well, some of the things I've experienced in your sessions are pretty profound, but I'm completely relaxed and safe the whole time. But I'll generally get a massive energetic shift, an epiphany. Last time I was in one of your sessions, I got my new branding idea, just clear as day, just as a vision. And I thought, wow, this is really profound, and it's gentle and it's held and it's very much enjoyable. But you notice you go through the full range of emotions too. And I think I came out and said, one of those noises really irritated me.
Yeah.
You said, that's what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is, it's multidimensional as well. So I've always had really good results from that. And there's so many gentle ways to heal, particularly for those of us that are sensitive, empathetic, highly attuned. It doesn't have to be these full-blown experiences that shock the system all the time.
Oh, completely. And this is the beauty of taking, I guess, such complexity and making it really simple.
Yeah.
Because it can be really simple.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think 50% of it, like a session, is just people lying down and stilling for the moment.
Yeah.
And giving themselves permission just to, I'm feeling this, feeling the different energies and so on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where I kind of refrain from using words like sound healer.
Okay. Yeah.
It's more a facilitator, because ultimately sound doesn't heal, but it'll bring awareness.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's, because we're talking about vibration as well, that vibrational aspect can really shift. And we see that with tuning forks put next to each other. Strike one, the other will start to resonate as
That's
well.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we even use in shamanism drums for sonic driving, which is just giving the brain a monotonous beat so that it ends up in a place of non-ordinary reality. And we train our brains to go into trance. So it sounds like you're doing similar, but with more dimensions, perhaps.
Perhaps, because, why is that? This is what I love as well, as part of the neurotech of what goes on with shamanic drumming.
Neurotech, excellent word, thank you very much. Yeah.
Dropped in from the ether. No, but just as far as they're doing MRI scans now, with such experiments in mind of what is the medicine drum and what happens.
Yeah.
11 minutes is the magic mark.
Oh, this is good neurotech.
Yeah. 11 minutes. Why? Because it takes that long, because ultimately you want heart-brain coherence.
Yes.
Heart's full of waves doing their things. The brain's got its own waves.
Yeah.
But if we can sync them up, boom.
11 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what do you think the benefits are from putting people or allowing people and encouraging them to go to those non-ordinary states of reality?
Because that's where I think, one, miracles can happen.
Yeah.
Two, profound shifts in awareness, inspiration, life direction.
Yeah. And as you said, it's sort of those realms that get left behind. They're not encouraged. They're actually quite taboo. They're put along like this is the crazy realm or something.
Totally.
But it's usually where you figure it all out and you can have access to your subconscious.
Completely.
Yeah.
And then this is the exciting thing, is when we start talking about time or timing, that if we're locked into a certain time or timing, nothing can change.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying there. So we actually have to shift out of that. I generally call it 3D reality.
Totally. But that's another word for it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
so we can heighten our awareness, yeah.
And so for me, with the drum, and it's that beautiful thing, is like, well, as part of our embryonic development, what was the first sound we heard?
Heartbeat.
Whose heartbeat?
Mum's.
Exactly.
And
so then we're connecting to this whole matriarchy through that space of just the skin, the wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I hear a lot of people say that when they hear the drum, something happens inside them. So we must be remembering something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's taking us back to our humanness. And
Yeah.
remembering where we're from. This crazy world that's going on with all the tech and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also got to come back stronger, and it's like a re-remembering.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about, obviously, pathway as a creative, sovereign individual like you are, working with plants, working with the earth, working with instruments. Did you have a lot of resistance along that path about...
Oh, completely.
Yeah,
I've
struggles and-
noticed it just in this session now. It's just like, oh my gosh, I haven't felt this nervous in so long. And it's one of those things like, I'm so comfortable now in sort of like facilitating a group, 20, 30, 40, 50, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
But this is outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's back.
Yeah.
Oh, where did this come from? So
Yeah.
it's constant, ongoing, but just the fear of living a life not lived, of being concerned what other people think,
Oh.
give us all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. It's heavy, it's thick,
Yeah.
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 So I've got no choice in a way.
Yeah.
When you
Or
really think about it, or
the alternative
reduce
is...
myself back to
Yeah.
just being a slave, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for speaking to that, because I like to remind everyone and myself that it's a path of resistance and you always have choice, but things open up outside of your comfort zone. Would you agree with that?
That's the only way. And
Yeah.
this is so ripe at the moment as far as initiatory processes.
I like that.
Initiatory processes aren't all sweet and lovely and juicy. If
Yeah.
we're kind of coming back to that embryonic, well, then the birthing process.
Highly traumatic.
But it's a definitive initiatory process.
Yeah.
And I see all these politicians and all these businessmen, these boys in suit, because they haven't gone through any initiation.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's speak to that, because initiation is something that we've lost a little bit of. And we're not in a traditional society or culture where the elders would pick us out and say, right, you're ready now, you got to go through this gateway.
Yeah.
So we're left to initiate ourselves. Would you agree with that? We have to sort of facilitate that discomfort and...
Creating spaces and places and intentions. And it's self-awareness, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, did you want to speak about your sweat lodge experience?
Probably not at the moment.
Yeah.
Just there's a bit of business going on in the background with that
Yeah.
experience. But
Yeah. I hear it's profound.
they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
It is profound as far as for those that... Should we explain a little more sweat lodge?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So North American tradition, particularly Lakota, it's the process of creating a lodge. And that's done by using local saplings and weaving them together in a particular geometry that creates a dome. And within that dome, over that dome is blankets and tarps and things to create a complete womb-like dark space. And that's basically entering the feminine.
Yeah.
Outside the feminine is a fire. Big, burning, hot fire, bonfire with volcanic rocks in it.
Right.
And so that volcanic fire represents the masculine.
Yeah.
And so there's a real process of working with the elements of the receptivity of the feminine and the heat and the warmth of the masculine coming together to create basically a child.
Yeah.
And so that child is a process of being basically putting through the ringer. It gets so hot.
I bet it gets really uncomfortable in there.
Really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Every part's screaming to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But having to sit with that uncomfortability.
Yeah.
And really deep in it.
Yeah.
And actually that feeling of like, well, it feels like my bones are about to ignite. Wow. How do I sit with that? And doing that and realizing that the marrow in my bones is like bubbling and purifying, and just the water's coming in, and, you know, the steam and the elements. And it's just, yeah.
Was it traditionally used for initiation and things like that?
It's a process,
Yeah.
purification.
Purification. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I guess we have access to these sorts of things. It's similar to plant medicine.
There's
And
lots
it's
of
similar
communities, and it's a really healthy initiatory process because you're purifying, you're not toxifying or altering.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's very much a process for the next days. I was walking around thinking of coming back to those raw elements.
Yeah.
The earth, the fire, the water, and the air.
Yeah. Beautiful.
In my body to feel strong and centered and focused.
Yeah. It's funny, hey, what we have to do now in modern society to get us so close to elements. You know, we actually have to resist the status quo sometimes and move towards these experiences that put us like so in sync with nature and the elements so we can remember how close we are to it. Because if we just continue on where we're encouraged to go with screens and isolating and houses and everything else, I feel like even I lose that connection after a time, and I have to go back to my rituals. I have to go back to difficult experiences and making sure I'm synced in with elements and the earth, and then everything makes sense again. But otherwise, we're heading down a path away from that, which can be really difficult for people.
Ooh, goosebumps. Yeah, it's interesting if we're going to talk ecosystems, because we are living on a giant, huge, interconnected ecosystem that's been around for millions of years, evolving, adapting, adjusting, pivoting.
Yep. And
wanting that balance. And it's interesting if something's missing in that. So I remember reading stories about the woods in Germany where a particular bird became extinct.
Yeah.
And what happened was there was basically, if you go into a forest, you know, there's a full spectrum of frequencies. And if something's missing, it creates a disease.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
And so I think the real call for, you know, big call, but for humanity at the moment is we're at a crossroads of choosing to walk down the path and, you know, of the non-living, full tech distraction, full disconnection, fully lost in the money game and relationship game and those lower chakras.
Lower centers.
Yeah. Or returning and moving forward with the wisdom of the, you know, the elders, the ancient ones.
Yeah, there is a bit of a divide, isn't there? And I think we're navigating that. I love those lower centers. One of my mentors calls them the troublemakers, the bottom three.
Oh, yeah.
And the other ones, you know, we want to access all of it. We want to access our third eye. We want to open our crown, but we still have to honor the lower centers, and they're very much linked to the earth and that groundedness and finding the right balance, I guess.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and this coming back to that initiatory processes again. What happens usually, traditional culture-wise, in most cultures, it's as soon as the boy hits puberty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's not...
And that would be to be able to utilise and proper use and guidance on those lower three.
Yeah.
And without them, it is the troublemakers, the kids, that, you know.
Yeah, totally. Like, and then I guess, where do we get to, for you both, Ryan, if you got anything to contribute, you know, if an elder did pick you up at 13, 14 and say, all right, mate, you're going walkabout, you're going out there, this is what you need to do, or you need to go through this. When that's not happening, how far do you get into your early adulthood before you realize you need an experience that teaches you who you are? Do you sort of like end up getting a little bit lost? Is there like something you need to go through, and then how do you facilitate that? I know a lot of my friends just went to drugs and substances because at least it got them into a different realm, but that's highly risky. Can you remember in your early adulthood what you needed to do to initiate yourself to be a man? That's a
Yeah,
big
I mean,
question.
I probably had some. Uh, I guess it manifested in different ways.
Yeah.
And my first real initiation was into Reiki.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah,
So healing modality, that's a
yeah,
nice way to do it.
yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, I used drugs and alcohol, but it wasn't, I didn't really use that as the crux. But yeah, I think, um, what were my initiations? Pain,
Yep. Yep.
and then family support. My eldest brother held me in a ceremony,
Yep.
and that was probably the first time that I'd experienced the 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 tangible
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
that's here, and that was probably my initiation into that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was your transformation. Yeah.
Mm.
Can you remember?
Yeah, I think it's those. Definitely the first one's got to be heartbreak.
Yes.
That's like, oh, that
Yes.
full, oh my God, how can I go forward? And,
Yeah.
just total devastation.
It is a death of some kind, isn't
Oh,
it?
completely.
Yeah, your ego dies.
Totally, totally,
Yeah.
totally. That'd be the first one.
Mm.
And then I guess the next one's going out, working with Indigmob out in the desert, far north Queensland, all over. And particularly in the Northern Territory, what was so palpable was men are men and women are women. And they've got their place, they've got the processes,
Yep.
and it's...
Yeah. It's very distinct.
I went out, one of the first times I went out to the desert, I made a short film with some young kids, about 7 or 8 of them, beginning to end. Cool. I went back next year, they wouldn't talk to me.
Oh.
Yeah. They've all been weird because they'd gone through initiation.
Oh.
They were happy to hang out with me as kids, but now that
Right.
they were men, they were feeling, well, you're not an initiated man, so,
That's really potent because I can definitely relate to when I go through initiations, and I've learned how to be on top of that with the work that I do, how my relationship to people can change. It's like once you crack through something, you're on the other side. You
Yeah.
think, I'm in a completely different reality now, and the connection has changed. Love and respect forever. But sometimes I'm not on that level anymore. I can't relate there. I've gone through something. So I understand my resistance to initiations now because I think like, well, I don't want to lose anyone, but this is important for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could almost just change the word because it's a change moment.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
life change. No one likes change.
No.
And this is the
it's true.
thing, to come back to the sweat lodge.
Yeah.
And, the overall theory underlying most of it is that if we're too much in our comfort zone,
Yeah.
nothing going to change.
True.
If you're comfortable, even being comfortable in depression, comfortable in numbness, comfortable in apathy, comfortable in
Resentment.
abusive relationship,
Yeah.
nothing going to change.
Yeah.
And so the only way through it is through it.
Yeah, that's right. And I even get the itch. Like I know if things have been going well and I'm comfortable and after a while I can feel something saying like, I can't stay this version of myself forever. I can feel it. But then there's so much resistance because no one's telling me to go out there and change who you are. Go out there and get initiated and do something scary. I just go, but I kind of like being comfortable and I got to get out there. So there's this push-pull because we don't have elders providing that role either, right? Would you say? We
Yeah,
don't have,
totally.
parents going like, get out there and go do something that's really scary.
Yeah. And initiation doesn't have to be trauma, blood or
No,
real uncomfortable situations and things like that. Because I think we know those moments where we get lit up by an idea and it really feels good and it's just boom, but how quickly it can be suppressed and a lot of it's subconscious, but to stop that idea sprouting.
Yeah.
And the initiation process is really just, well, what can I do to move through that
Yep.
and lessen the impact of that, because the initial feeling was friggin' good.
Yeah.
I think it's really
That's right.
powerful topic. I think one of the things that I find fascinating as well is like, you know, to be initiated in some ways, like you're brought in.
Yeah.
You're brought in, and in that process, you need to trust the person bringing you in, the structure, the whatever framework experience it is, and that we also get to provide that as well. You know, and like there's initiations that happen like on a very potent level where it's very like it's an event, it's something that's happening. It's like, okay, but then there's also little initiations as well. And it's like little teachings and sharings that you can have with people, and pointing and you know, even if it's just like a glint in your eyes, like, you know,
Yeah.
just. And I think that there's this what's the point of initiation? For me, the point of initiation is sharing it.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so how do we do that? Yes, I think there are these states, peak states, or however we get to them. But some people aren't ready for those. You know, some
100%.
people need little nudges and little, you know, and that's where I find myself. It's like, you know, I've had some amazing peak experiences that are ancient initiations.
Yeah.
And I know it's like the Hermetic principle, the lips of wisdom are sealed, you know, to those without ears, you know. And so not everyone is ready for these initiations, but slowly, little by little, I think, you know, and we're at a time where so much is changing
So quick.
so quickly.
Yeah.
You know, time is an illusion, but come, connect, go deep. Whatever experience it is that's calling you, now's the time. Invest in it. Invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
inwards.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real thing.
Yeah, you're right. The energy's there when you tap into it, but you do need a hefty dose of courage all the time. And there's natural initiations that we have: fatherhood, opening a business, separating from parts of the system. I mean, these are all like, I call them upgrades, but there's energy available to you if you have the courage to take that leap. And we can use that in our modern society as the way that we do it. Because we don't have those cultural ties and that sort of energy around us. There's something different, but we can still get what we need to keep on upgrading and becoming better humans.
Absolutely.
Better to each other, I think, is the barometer for me. If you upgrade yourself and then you're a kinder human being and you want to connect more, then that's a triumph. Because there's so many things taking us away from that.
No, completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
And actually, the system is geared towards that. It's stacked against you. It's like going to the casino. It's stacked against you. It's
The odds
stacked
are,
against you.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you realize who you are, you're not playing the game anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's a big part of it. It's like, you know, ultimately, if you were to, and this is me, if you were to bring all of this down, all of the sweat lodges and plant medicines and sound healings and da-da-da and yoga and all of that, distill it, remember who you are.
Yeah, and you have to keep on facilitating.
And then from there, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? What's life showing you? What experiences are you having?
Yeah.
Remember who you are.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
And then the
point.
rest is the tapestry, the sweetness, the beauty, the conversation, the conflict, the rising, the hero's journey, all of this stuff. Remember who you are.
Mm.
And your journey to that is yours.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
why you're here. What else could there be?
Agreed.
What else could there be to fully embody that?
Yeah.
Who you are. And then let your relationships, let your external world show you that. So these modalities of using sound, like you said, most of it's fucking like, stop.
That's right.
Whoa. Just stop.
Calm down.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay,
Safe. It's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
What you're saying about you're not doing, you're creating the space for it. And that happens on so many different levels. And like this podcast, creating the space for thoughts.
Yeah. Environments are really important, aren't they? And on that note, are there things that you've found you need to do regularly, or things that remind you of who you are when you get a little bit lost or off the path or
completely
confused?
Yeah. And it's interesting. So if I say the word to you, posture, what happens to your body?
I am aware of my body.
Exactly.
I think about
it's
where my
amazing how
spine
one
is.
word can just make a change.
Yeah.
And if I say the word breathe,
awareness,
we come back to the thing. And it's just those simple prompts every day. And so if those two words can have such power on our physiological effects instantaneously, then inner self-talk needs to be sweet.
Yeah.
I try to make times each day. I don't get overwhelmed with routine and as far as practices, rituals every single day. But there's some basic ones that I come back to every single day because they're my non-negotiables.
Yeah.
That first cup of water in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful.
Boom. I'm going to charge this with just absolute gratitude to be given clear signs and signals about how I can best serve,
I like that.
the one. And just,
rich intention. Yeah.
it's easy. I could just drink that water, or I could, essentially program it.
Yes. Why not take the opportunity?
Totally.
Yeah. You're right.
And it's also just grounding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grounding.
Yeah.
Not getting overwhelmed.
Sure.
Breath and grounding.
Hey, lovelies. If you're resonating with this content, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, helps out the channel, helps us to make beautiful content for you all. Don't forget to comment down below too if you want to share your experiences, ask us a question, and send in some requests. We'd love to know what you want more videos about. Once again, thank you for watching, and we love you all so much. Do you find this experience where if you're not playing music or facilitating those spaces for people or yourself, you start to get uncomfortable? Does it become like something that you need as part of
Oh, no. I didn't put my hand up for any of this.
Yeah,
as far as it wasn't, this is interesting, like as far as career-wise, work-wise.
Yeah.
It was a process of elimination.
Right.
I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I didn't want to do the more I went on.
I like that.
One of the first ones I learned, actually working in Vodafone, was going, these people, I can't work.
Yeah.
It was a real cultural shift of ethics, deep morality. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was that point of I had to leave that.
Yeah.
And so it's that process of refining and refining.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to that point where it comes down to who am I working with? Where am I working? How am I contributing to that?
Yeah.
So like even if now it's probably because I'm sensitive, but now I can tell when the intentions behind a space or a building is off, or the intention behind the business itself is greed and money driven. It feels off to me. And if I'm working there, I'm contributing to that. So being selective around like, well, who are we working with and why and what's the intention? Because we want to create a better world, right? That's sort of what we're hoping
Well,
to
absolutely.
contribute to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that coming back to, for me, the greatest teachers of as far as nature goes,
Yeah.
that wants a better world. It wants sacred balance.
Yes.
In forest, trees want to feed each other through the mycelium network in the ground and support each other and create optimum life where everyone thrives.
Yeah. Yeah. They want to hold us and we need to hold them. And then it's this beautiful relationship. We've just got to find our way back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And why? It's because it comes back to essentially what we are and who we are.
Yeah. And that's good for us. You know,
That's healthy.
whether it makes logical sense or whatever your belief system is, the more in tune with nature you are, the better it is for your body. And this life is going to be really hard if our bodies are out of sync.
Well, let's reframe that. It's going
Yeah.
to be really hard when our minds are out of sync.
Yes. Oh, isn't it?
And this is really what, coming back to that, knowing the self, is realizing that the mind's just a computer.
Yeah.
And it can play all kinds of tricks.
Oh,
it
tricky
can play
games.
dirty. It can play,
Trickster.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And just being aware of that. And that's where I think maximum kind of nature engagement can really help us to get out of that monkey mind
Yeah.
and start thinking, like in Avatar, connecting to
yeah.
the mainframe in a way.
Yeah. And maybe that will create a collective shift eventually that says like, well, we're not saying get out in nature because we're this tree hugging idea about that's where you need to be. It's actually really important for our bodies to be synced that way because diseases of the mind are what are going to take us down. They're already starting to. And that's an imbalance in us. And the mind will go and play tricks and it can run someone into the ground, into a very unhappy human.
Completely.
So being in the sun and syncing with the earth and breathing in the forest, it's really just fundamental health at the end of the day.
Yeah. And my experience, fundamental health has to come to the authentic self.
Yeah.
If we're authentic to ourselves and to know that authenticity, to live authentically, we know what's going into our mouths, into our eyes, into our ears, what are we listening to, everything changes. And I think that's a nice spot of like ultimate self-responsibility.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more that we, take process to initiate that within ourselves, then the support and the courage gets amplified by those around us that are doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you start to pull in the right people. I found that as well. But it does start with what do I need and what's authentic to me? Can you also speak a bit more to, like if someone's watching or someone's out there that is really, because I found it hard to grasp that concept of authenticity and self-responsibility in the beginning. I thought I had to do what science said is right because initially I'm a scientist, but it more and more is a more intuitive flow towards this feels good for me right now and I don't need to know exactly why. I just have to move in the direction of my core needs. So if someone was out there a little bit lost, didn't really know how to be authentic, didn't really know what their path was, what could you speak to in them to give them a boost along that way? Because it seems to be pretty challenging.
Yeah. So you answered the question in a way because you're basically saying that you trust your feelings and you don't need to rationalize it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not rational decision.
Absolutely not rational.
No.
Some things, and it's interesting you say from the science background, which is so rational.
It is. Yeah. And it's popular now. Like I love all this neuroscience coming out and all these hacks and everything, and that's great. And I've always used that to get me back on the path. But at one point, you have to govern yourself with your own connection with spirit and take it on that next tangent. And a lot of it doesn't make sense. So then we get afraid that it doesn't make sense to other people. And then this fear of judgment and what other people think comes in. And that's very strong. Yeah, that can be a real burden for people coming out of that conditioning. Massive. Do you feel that sometimes in the work that you do?
As far as that overwhelm and
overwhelm and worrying about judgment or what people
completely think. That's been it, and that's been that whole process. But it's just it's from that first, say, exhibition and having your work critiqued
Yeah.
or putting something out. And it can be completely debilitating.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's hard, and so on. But as I was saying, it's the rewards that come along the way. Money can't buy. Your career can never give you. Your family. It's coming back to that self again.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's just
Yeah. And tell me about music for mindfulness.
Music for mindfulness. When I realised I was doing these sound healing concerts and a lot of, particular demographic were coming, and I thought, what if I start working, I guess, with young teenagers,
Nice.
the naughty kids,
Yeah.
or the ones, have their own
Troublemakers,
challenge.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I started doing a few sessions for some Gold Coast project for homeless youth.
Wow.
And I remember one time coming there, and it was my first session. It was wild. There's 10 teenagers, and the house manager's like, I don't think this is going to work.
Oh.
Some of them are drunk. Some of them are just,
Wow.
they're just wild. They're not going to sit and listen. Give me a moment.
Yep.
And actually, it wasn't this flute, but I pulled my flute out and just started playing. Oh, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah,
It just went completely silent. They sat and they listened, and I was like, oh, I'd love to listen to this going to sleep. I was just like, oh. And so that opened up a whole gateway of conversation that was really meaningful, and coming back to that authentic self again. I wasn't trying to be anyone else or try and just be myself.
Yeah, give it a go.
Because real recognizes real.
Yeah, powerful. Absolutely. Yeah, and it seems important to grab people at that early adulthood.
Oh, completely. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. And it's so not this as simple as this, mindfulness and music combined. It's been around forever.
Yep.
Why weren't these kids ever experienced anything like it before?
That's right. And it's old school traditional ways that we used to feel connected to each other.
Culture, community,
Yeah.
connection.
And there was always music, and there was always singing together, and there was always eating together, cooking together. These are the things we've lost. And even when they study diets still, they study the ones where people are cooking together, eating together, in community, singing and dancing. This is like what all the shamanic societies are built on as well. It's ingrained. And look at modern society. When do we do that as adults? It's almost like it's discouraged. And I think as a teenager, I was feeling that sense of disconnection as well. I wanted to know that I had elders and people around me that would facilitate what I needed. And it keeps us really well. You can feel it instantly. And even if it's a little bit awkward or a little bit outside of the comfort zone, that's what we need.
It's so good. And this comes back to that immune system kind of response of a forest. And if we gather, each of us has our own fingerprint, but we all of us have our own unique voice.
Yep, true.
And that sense of connection gets that kind of touch thing connected, and the sounds of our voice. But when they come together, and particularly one of my favourite things and most transformative things I think, and as far as sound goes, is singing together.
Yes.
No instruments required.
Agreed.
No,
No talent, skill.
not.
You don't need to be in key. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's probably something about hearing the voices of people that you're connected to or not, and how it helps us to fit into something very easily.
Yeah.
I think we're overcomplicating this fitting in and who are we hanging around thing at times. Community was always, we've all got our role and we're all in it together. And you don't have to love and like everyone down to their last cell. It's more like we're in it together.
Yeah.
And we can show that just by communicating well, and singing's just ancient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And within that realm. That's why I think it's one of the most powerful instruments. Because there's no trickery, there's no intermediary. It's this connection to source or, self.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about this beautiful little device you have here.
Well, we'll have to connect it. It's interesting when you sort of start walking the path, all sorts of magical things happen.
Yes.
And I found myself in an Italian spiritual community called Damanhur.
Okay.
In the foothills of the Italian Alps.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to have an experience playing music with a tree.
Wow. How did you find that community? Did you stumble across it? Or?
Yeah, I did actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did a sort of online for about a year of Damanhur school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
A beautiful mix of esotericism, galactic histories.
Wow.
So in this community, people come from all around the world, but a good third of their time is spent researching.
Okay.
Yep, researching.
That's healthy.
It is very healthy. And so part of that was, being very much focused on human potential. One of the first things they did was work with plants.
Right.
Going, all right, plant consciousness has been around a whole lot longer than human consciousness.
Yep.
What do we got to learn? How can we exchange? And so they created a device that allowed the plant to actually control a greenhouse. If it was thirsty, it could switch on, water the plant, and adjust the airflow.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 sensors, and so on.
Wow.
Wow, isn't this wonderful? The plants will be great, and, they're autonomous now, and so on. So they developed the technology, set it all up, and they weren't expecting the plants to not be very happy at all. Yeah. No, there was a vital ingredient missing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what the plants communicated.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, we need human connection. We want human connection.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so that's been, and hence the music.
Right.
It's not just a universal language, but it's an interspecies language as well.
Yes.
We think about the whale songs, the bird songs, the dolphin songs, all the sounds of the forest and the creepy crawlies and everything. It's one big chorus.
Yeah. Yeah, even the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
If they request something, it's always sing to me, give me something that you love, burn beautiful smells, get your drum out. We want to hear it. We want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that making the offering. And so, this device is essentially, we'll see technology sometimes after we've been.
Oh, particularly now. It's been a bit glitchy.
We'll see how it goes. But this device was actually created from the lie detector test, the polygraph test.
Got it.
That's where the technology came from.
Okay.
And so, just turn it down for a second while we're talking. And so that polygraph test, the inventor of it, working for the FBI or something, thought, what if I put it on a plant?
Interesting. So
And he did.
the lie detector is just heart rate and showing someone
variances in
nervous.
some bioelectric
Got
field.
it. Yeah. Right.
And so his studies led him to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Uh-huh.
Including having the thought, leaving his plant in his lab, leaving the office, going back at a set time, 7 p.m. I'm going to imagine, pulling a leaf off it.
Wow.
Just stop. Sorry, not you. And at that time, he went back into the office, and on the kind of tape, at exactly that same time, the plant was responded.
That's mind-blowing.
It is.
So just with intention, the plant's energetics changed.
Totally. Because we're connected.
Sure.
It was his desk plant.
Yeah, right.
So there'd been a connection, maybe unconscious,
Yeah.
but essentially connected.
Wow.
And so that process
Yeah.
even went to much more out there experiences.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's kind of listed in The Secret Life of Plants, a seminal book for plant enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, a plant was used in a in a murder case to solve a murder case.
Really?
Mm-hmm. A hotel room where someone had died. There was a plant in the room. There was suspects, but the police couldn't find who it was. They connected the plant up to the polygraph machine and got them to walk past the suspects. It went off at one, and then so they put all their attention focusing on putting the heat on him, and the case was, he eventually admitted.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a bit grim story, but just as far as we're really connected, obviously through the breath is the first one. This reciprocal relationship, breathing in, plants exhaling oxygen, breathing in my thing. So it's really quite a beautiful thing as far as that connectivity goes. So the music aspect of it, is the plant connected to its root and to its leaf, creating a closed electrical circuit, and it's responding real time, live. I'll just see if I can turn the volume up a little bit.
So this is the music it's creating.
This is live, real.
That's incredible.
Pausing now, it's a bit nervous.
You could hold it up to the microphone if you wanted to give it a bit more.
No way.
Mm.
So if we had a nil intention now, the music would change?
It's responding to that. Remember when I said pulling the leaf off? It was very in the background.
Yeah,
and
I
it
could
just
hear
stopped.
that.
It
Yeah.
just stopped for
Right.
5 seconds.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm not talking about you.
Right.
Yeah.
So our houseplants are responding to us and we're in connection. I mean, I've always thought that. Makes sense why like plant medicines and psychedelic medicines and
Completely.
stuff are so potent, because then we can be in a relationship. But it sort of changes our framework about being caretakers of the land, but also knowing that they need something from us is quite refreshing, actually, for me.
And
Not just like
for sure.
water and
But what is that need? Exactly. But what is that need?
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you have that connection?
I would just I already tell my plants that I love them,
Okay.
even when I'm on holiday.
Yeah.
Like, I'm love you guys, I'm coming back to
For sure.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, because I'm doing an experiment at the moment where I've got some trees on the mountain that I love, and I'm kind of, they've got names now to me.
Yeah.
And I'm having an interaction of like, hey, how you going today? And what's...
Yeah.
And just because we can break down those divides.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. One of my a shaman over in Mongolia, he's mentoring me a little bit, and he said, on your property, you need to find the one tree that is governing all the others. And I said, I know straight away which tree it is. It's the biggest, it's the most beautiful. He said, you make offerings to that tree, because that tree can then nourish the others. And ever since I've been doing that, I've noticed that home has felt better. There's more luck and synchronicity there. There's more connection somehow. So it's these simple ways that we can get back in touch with nature.
Completely.
But knowing that it's playing music is just, it's mind-boggling, really. And that it can feel our intention. So maybe when our intention shifts in our houses and stuff, the plants respond and they need that attention and that love, just like we do as well.
And that's what I loved about Ndamanho. In the sacred forest, there's the 500 or so on members, community, have their own tree.
Right.
With a little plaque on it, little clay plaque.
Really?
With its name.
That's cool.
So whenever there's squabbles or, oh, I don't know about this, or should I do this, or should I do that, the often response is, go and consult your tree.
Oh, I love that.
Don't go and squabble or, gossip or whatever.
Yeah.
Go and consult your tree.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So it's
And,
like
and get the guidance, totally.
Yeah. You got your own totem and it's living. I mean, we use that in shamanism. We use our guides and we go back to our birth totem and say, what's going on here? And they say if two humans are squabbling, their spirits are squabbling too. It's highly stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it needs to be sorted out
Yeah.
for the sake of peace
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
everyone.
completely.
Yeah, right. That's really cool. And they get their tree from birth?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
Even
Or
that
they
would make
adopt
such a
one.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. In their
Completely.
lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like a plant ally for life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's old ways.
Yes.
The birthing trees and
Yeah, that's
burying
right.
the placenta with the tree on top.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
Okay, we are nearly done with time, even though it's an illusion. If there's anyone that's watching us live that wants to ask a question, please ask it now, and myself and Joshua will definitely answer it. I have a question too, though. Knowing everything we've just talked about, and it's been a beautiful conversation, how could people get a bit more of this connection in their lives, like either with plants or music or their voice
Cool.
or the earth?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
Oh, for sure. The first thing that pops into mind is that it's almost like a frequency pyramid.
Sounds cool.
Like, we'll talk about the lower frequencies of what comes with guilt, shame, regret, remorse, dread, and knowing that one of the higher frequencies is gratitude.
Correct.
Simple as can be, but grateful.
Yeah.
With every meal,
Yep.
just simple gratitude.
It's funny how life
And
changing it can
do that for a week, then see what happens.
Yeah.
Because see what happens.
Yeah. I love that. And I'll probably be sitting down and talking to my houseplants and saying, like, what do we need to do here? Is there anything you need?
Completely. But I was asking before, just as far as, well, what is it about this connection? And it's just presence.
Yeah.
Giving some presence of, like, I give you my presence in this moment.
Yeah.
And observing and giving it compliments and,
Yeah.
that's an interesting,
Yeah.
thing, and just creating a moment.
Yeah. And being in relationship.
Completely.
Yeah. What that means.
Absolutely.
Particularly non-verbal relationships can be the most life-changing at times. We have the animals
completely.
and plants and everything.
Just
and
a little bit of presence.
Yeah.
And ideally, you grow something that you can eat.
Ideally. And then
Even if
gratitude
it's in a
really.
pot, and then,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then see, the qualities of that plant will adjust to you, the gardener.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's powerful. I'm going to sit with that for quite a while.
Yeah, next time you plant a seed, put your saliva on it.
Yeah.
Mix the
Before you
DNA
put it in.
before you plant it. It'll customize itself.
Yeah. Set an intention with it. Yeah.
I've just got images of the farmers, mouthfuls of seeds.
Yeah.
Just licking them all. Yeah. Put them in. But that's beautiful. It's really getting your own DNA in there and being in relationship. Yeah, because I guess if we look at that sort of microcosm idea and macrocosm, it's like what's happening in your garden is happening in you. What's happening around us is happening within us. So it's all reflection. And if we return back to gratitude, all we see is the good, right?
Yeah.
If we're just grateful for the little things, that turns into the big things. And then it's like the colours come back and the richness comes back, and just remembering that. And we say that too, yeah. If there's any glitches in your external environment, well, something's happening within you. You're the centre.
Sounds like taking self-responsibility to me.
Yes. Yeah.
So easy to blame.
Yeah. And honouring it, right? Yeah, for sure.
Well, my jet's here to...
Perfect. Awesome. I'm
I
grateful.
thought that was your spirit sword.
That's it. I'm grateful for you both. Thank you for being
Yeah.
here, Joshua. Thank you for sharing your medicine. Thank you, Ryan, for staying in your genius. Thank you, everyone that is watching now and will watch all into the future. It was a beautiful conversation. And we will sign off there. Spoken Synergy. We will be back. Thank you to the land and the soil and everything that brought us here today. And the fact that we had the courage to go outside of our comfort zone.
Oh.
Awesome. Thank you, brothers. We're going to sign off there.